All right, it's finally September, which means finally everyone listening to this podcast episode should be for real back in school. I know some of you listening are year-round teacher friends and you're gasping because it seems like you've already been back for ages. But I know for a fact my niece who lives in Maine goes back tomorrow, the day after this airs. So I know that some of you really are just now starting. And so because of this, I think it's finally time for your annual pep talk that we do here on the Secondary Science Simplified podcast. Now, I have given a lot of pep talks in the nearly 4 years since I started this podcast. And what I'm actually going to do is I made this earlier this summer. I just made like a Google spreadsheet of all of the different podcast episodes and their show notes since the podcast started because someone basically asked, they were like, hey, I just found your podcast. Going back and starting at episode 1 feels daunting now that there's, 200 plus. So where should I begin? These are things I struggle with. And I was like, you know what? This would be really helpful if I kind of like categorize these. So about once a month when I record podcasts now, I go and I update the spreadsheet and there's different tabs by topic area. So you can like scroll and find all of the guest interviews if you just like listening to me talk to other people, or you can find all the podcast episodes about grading or all the podcast episodes about teaching AP Sciences. Or if you're like, I need more than one pep talk, you can click the encouragement/pep talks tab and you can listen to every pep talk I've ever done. But I will say, I do try to differentiate my pep talks each year and really think about what do I feel like based on the temperature of my inboxes. Like, what do I feel like you all really need to hear? And this year, I just felt like I just kept hearing in my head, like, keep it simple. And if I could only tell them one thing, I feel like there's so much noise. I feel like we say this every year. I'm like, is it ever going to get quieter? But it just feels like there's so much noise out there. I was like, can I just give them one thing? And what would that one thing be? What would be the most important thing that I feel like teachers listening to the Secondary Science Simplified podcast need to hear? And within seconds, when I asked myself that, I had my answer. So let's run the intro and I'll tell you what that is. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. So I get emails and DMs from all of y'all all of the time that are insane. Just the expectations that are placed on you. The last minute courses thrown on your plate. Literally minutes before I started recording this episode, I was taking a few minutes to drink my drink because I feel like I have like a frog in my throat. I don't know if it's like ragweed allergies are happening right now or what, where I live, but I feel like I have itchy throat. So I was like, I'm just going to like have a bunch of drink and start recording this. And I check my DMs while I'm doing this. And in my Instagram inbox, I had a few DMs from a veteran teacher. Y'all, this teacher has taught for 22 years. Who just found out they're being thrown honors bio, a course they've never taught, last minute. And this is now going to be their 4th prep. And one of their classes already is a combination class that's honors chemistry and on grade level chemistry all at the same time. And so she was having a meltdown a little bit. And like, I get it. And so I tell you this because I want to encourage you. Like, some of you are new teachers. Some of you have been teaching 5 years, 10 years. Like, this is a 22-year veteran teacher. And being thrown a new prep last minute can still cause a meltdown. So I want to encourage you, if you are like looking at your caseload or all of the responsibilities you have this year and you're thinking, I can't do it, I want to say to you, of course you can't. Okay. But I never type that back because I feel like when I'm typing things, you can't hear my tone and I don't want you to feel discouraged. I actually say that in love in the hopes of encouraging you because of course you cannot do it all. You have an unreasonable load put on your plate. High school science teachers have so much that they have to do. There's so much, just being a high school teacher in general, there's so much on there in that we are the last really direct impact we can have on these students before they are set out into society to make their impact, okay, as young adults. So there's huge pressure there. There's the pressure of preparing them, academically, if that is the route they choose to take. It's the pressure of giving them skills, life skills, study skills, resilient skills. So many skills we want to give to them. And then on top of that, the grading we're doing is so much more advanced than the grading. I have a friend that's a kindergarten teacher, and I'm not putting out what she's doing. She's doing the Lord's work. I cannot teach my kindergartner to read, and she sure can. But I'm telling you right now, the stuff she's grading that my kindergartner's doing is a lot faster to grade than the stuff that I would be grading in a high school chemistry class or a lab report or anything like that. So we have that on top of us too. And then science teachers specifically. No shade to anyone listening to this who doesn't teach science. Happy you're here, but this is for science teachers. We have two other massive responsibilities that no other discipline has. We're testing, preparing, and executing labs, which is almost a part-time job. And then two, we're having to keep students safe during those labs and all of the time as they're having to learn while they're being physically located near potentially harmful equipment at all times. Like if you have gas in your classroom or if you have chemical storage that isn't locked because the lock rusted off the cabinet years ago, not speaking from experience or anything. There's just so much more on your plate. And I guarantee that 95% of you listening to this, despite all of these added responsibilities you have, that you don't have additional prep time compared to your peers or any more prep time than my daughter's kindergarten teacher has. And yet you have all these other things you're doing. So I say all of this to say, not to make your heart rate any higher than it already is, but to tell you and affirm that this is a lot. This is why I literally started making It's Not Rocket Science resources back in 2016. And it's the reason I started this Secondary Science Simplified podcast back in 2022. I wanted to simplify teaching for you so that teaching didn't have to feel like rocket science and so that you could have time and energy to actually enjoy teaching and have a life outside of it. So I give you that preface to say, what is the most important thing I think you need to hear as the school year kicks off? It's that you cannot do it all, and that is okay. So many of you sound so defeated and discouraged by your load this year, by the number of preps you have, by the number of students you have to manage, and the resulting amount of assignments you're going to have to grade because of the 100+ students you have, because of the variety in your students' attitudes and just their effort levels and figuring out how am I going to reach all these really diverse students in my classroom? It's truly insane the expectations that are being set on so many of you. So let's not also heap on top of that even more unrealistic expectations for ourselves in thinking that we can do all of these things perfectly or we have to do it all, because you cannot. You cannot do it all, and that is okay. Now, I'm not going to end this here. I'm going to give you a couple more reminders that kind of fall under that umbrella. That's our anthem, though. And that's what I want you to hear this school year as you're feeling overwhelmed, as you're feeling like, I can't do this all. I want you to hear my voice saying, of course you can't. You cannot do it all, and that's okay. It is okay that you cannot do it all. So a few more reminders that are related to this. They're things that I've told you before, but again, I'm not naive enough to think that everyone's listened to all 200+ episodes of this podcast. So a few other kind of refrains of things I've said that I want you to hear again. I have 5 of them for you. So first, you cannot care more about your students' success than they do. And if this is something you struggle with, I get it. I'm an Enneagram 1. The nickname for the Enneagram 1 is the reformer. We see things and we see potential in things and people and processes, and we want to improve them. I see a broken system and I want to fix it. I see inefficiency and I want to make it more efficient. I see a student not living up to their full potential and I want to get them there. So I'm coming to you as someone who struggles with this. I struggle with caring so much more than they do. And if you fall into that category, episode 123, you got to listen to it. Episode 123, what to do if you care more than your students care. Also, episode 166 about using your students to help you, I think is a really practical episode for how do I put more on them and less on me? So we can't care more than they do. Second, I think modeling boundary setting for students is a critical life skill. So I'm not trying to give you more life skills because I know there's so many you want to impart on them before they go out into the real world. But I think this is one of the most important. This is a do as I do, not just as I say situation. I hate that quote. Like, do as I say, not as I do. Like, I hate that. No, I want to model what I'm saying to people too. And so let's model boundary setting of like, hey, I can only do so much. That leads me to my next thing is modeling humility and humanity is a gift. Modeling humility and humanity. You are a human being with real limitations. Okay, I think in a world of AI where everything is at our fingertips, where in seconds we can have so much information and we can have so much done for us, that it's easy then to apply those principles to real human beings and forget that we are all limited in our nature. And so I think reminding students that we are limited is important. I think especially, we say this all the time, like what they're all seeing on their screens, but it's true. I mean, they're seeing people who are completely transforming their faces to combat aging, to look a certain way. And again, we're forgetting what a human face looks like, or we're forgetting what a normal human's house looks like because we're seeing all these houses on the Instagram that look so perfect. And I just think modeling humility and humanity is a gift to these students of like, this is what it looks like. I'm a human, and I think that's a gift. I also think that clarity is kindness. I think being clear about your expectations for students and then also your boundaries with them. Like, I will not be checking my email after work hours. So if you're emailing me at 9 p.m., asking when something's due, asking what you're perceiving as a life or death question about the project that's due tomorrow that was assigned a month ago, that is a personal problem for you. And that is not my problem. Like, just because you're trying to leap over my boundary doesn't mean I have to tear down the wall for you. Okay. The boundary is set that you will not reach me after these hours. And I think holding the line on those things is really, really important. Again, I think you can all pick what boundaries you want to set. We'll be talking more about this next week. But I think that's a really critical boundary, is not letting students have constant access to you. Again, I think it's a way that we're modeling humanity to them because you are not an AI robot. Okay. And then the fifth thing I would say that falls under this, like, you cannot do it all and that's okay, is a reminder that teaching is your job. It is not your life. We work so that we can live. We do not live to work. And your job as a teacher is not that of an ambulance driver or an open heart surgeon. My husband, all the time, I would honestly say the first 3 years I was teaching, because I felt like my third year when I switched schools, it was like almost starting all over again because the culture was so entirely different and the workload was so entirely different. But he was constantly telling me, like, especially when I would like sneak into my inbox like just before bed and see something and my heart rate would be elevated, he would literally put a hand on me and say, stop. You do not drive an ambulance. This is not a real emergency. If it's a real emergency, they should call 911, not email you. A real emergency is open heart surgery, okay? It's not what they're sending you. And again, I've said this before, but all the way back the first year I had one of my best friends, the high school counselor, I had her on the podcast. And she actually talked about how it is a liability issue if you make yourself constantly available to students. And then if a student shares some information with you that could potentially affect their life and you do not respond to it, but you have trained that student that you're available to them at all times, then that can have legal ramifications. So this is actually not just me telling you like you need boundaries, but also saying like this is what's safest to set up to protect you, but also to protect your students, to know that like you will not be available all the time. You're not driving the ambulance for them or for their parent who has unrealistic expectations or whatever it is, okay? You are a teacher, not an ambulance driver. Your job is to teach them this one subject and this one niche set of skills for science and for life at this one moment in time in their lives. I'm not trying to diminish the fact that you are going to make a lifelong impact on a lot of students. Like you absolutely will, but they are going to remember way more how you made them feel in your classroom and who you were as a person, way more than they're going to remember what you taught them and how many assignments you got graded and how quickly you got those back to them. Okay. And if you don't believe me, check out my podcast spreadsheet, go to the guest episodes and listen to every episode I've done with my former high school chemistry teacher, Zach Matson. He's come on the podcast like 5 times. But I literally thought he like knew everything. I thought he had his whole life together. I thought he hung the moon. And to hear his experience from a teacher perspective versus mine as a student, it's just so crazy how different they were. And yet, like, what really mattered and the impact he made on me was really his character and who he was as a person, not like everything he did as a chemistry teacher. Like, yes, I write chemistry curriculum now, but like Zach Matson had way more of an impact on who I am as a human being because of who he is as a human being, not as a chemistry teacher and the knowledge he imparted on me. So I just want you to remember that. You cannot do it all, and that is okay. So as always, we got to have some practical ending here because I got to give you a practical, actionable takeaway. So here's what I would like you to do before I let you go. First, I would set a timer for like 3 minutes after this episode ends. Okay, I tried to make this a little shorter, cut myself off. You know how I get all excited when I talk about things like this. But set a 3-minute timer. You should have time for that. And just handwrite or type in like a note in your phone, just a brain dump of all the things you want to do well this school year. Okay, just dump it all out. Then when that timer goes off, I just want you to look at your list for a second and just see how long it is. If you are like me, you can cover a lot of ground in 3 minutes. And then I want you to assess the current season of life that you are in and your current capacity within this season. This is something we talked a lot about on this podcast. I got this concept from Kendra Adachi, the lazy genius, who I love. But your current capacity, your capacity is always changing based on the season of life you're in. And that is, your season of life has to do with your health, like where you are physically, mentally, emotionally. It has to do with the health of those around you, who you're responsible for in life. Like, do you have kids that you're responsible for, younger versus older, have all different complications and responsibilities, like babies versus high schoolers? There are hard things to both. You know, maybe you're responsible for aging parents that you're caring for now. Maybe you have a sibling that you have, you know, your primary care over. You know, there's so much going on there. You have all these extracurricular roles, and those vary in your season. So maybe you're coaching right now when you haven't in the past, or maybe you have, you know, a second job at this time for other reasons. So consider all of those things that are happening right now. And remember that, you know, your seasons will change. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, like my season sucks right now, I can't think of a better word for it. It sucks right now. Okay, if that's how you're feeling, take a deep breath and remember seasons change. But let's give ourselves grace in this current season. Like if it feels like your season sucks right now, then let's give ourselves extra grace and say, okay, then my capacity is going to be really limited, and that's okay. It'll be greater in the future. And from there, based on your capacity in your season, I want you to determine whether you can focus on 1, 2, or 3 things this school year. Okay? 3 things. If you can focus on 3 things this school year, that's your absolute maximum. That's the teacher who maybe is like fresh out of college with their teaching certification, has all of the energy in the world, has 0 other responsibilities outside of the classroom than teaching, and just wants to do the job really well. I'm going to let you have 3. Because I'm thinking about first year teacher Rebecca, who was like on fire and ready to like conquer the world and like save every student who came through my classroom. I would have wanted 3. And then I want you to only have 1 thing that you're going to focus on for the teacher that just has like so much on their plate outside of school right now. And then 2 would be if you feel like you fall somewhere in the middle. Okay. And then based on that, now look at that list you brain dumped for 3 minutes and circle or highlight the 1, 2, or 3 things, you know, based on where your capacity is this season, that you will focus on this year. And that is it. Give that 1, 2, or 3 things. Those get your A++ effort. And then everything else gets a C effort, a passing effort, because you cannot do it all. And that is okay. All right. So for example, before I let you go, right now in my current season of life, I feel like I could handle 2. I'm not at my highest functioning capacity. I'm not at my lowest functioning capacity right now. So right now in my work time, I am only working on the physical science revamp and this podcast. So my full attention is on physical science. And then every 4 weeks, when it's time for me to record more podcast episodes, I set physical science to the side. I move my graphing calculator away, and I only write and record podcasts. And then once that's done, I'm back to the physical science revamp. Like those are the only 2 things I do at work right now, other than like general customer service. Okay. But like, would I love to do more? Would I love to make more smaller resources for you guys, or redo my website? I've wanted to redo it for so long, like, or start another product line. You know, of course. Would I love to go back to the classroom in some capacity? Yes. Like I wish I could go back part-time so much, but I literally cannot in this season, and that's okay. Okay, so I hope this episode encouraged you. You cannot do it all, and that is okay. And if you want to check out any of those podcast episodes I mentioned, or that spreadsheet where you can sort the podcast episodes by topic. Head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 198, and it'll have everything there for you. And if you haven't left a review for the podcast yet, I would love it if you do that today, especially if you felt encouraged by this pep talk. And again, if you need more pep talks and more encouragement, go to bit.ly/SSS podcast episodes. That's my little shortened link to get you to the Google spreadsheet that has everything sorted for you there. And I hope you find it helpful. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.